The first time that I was at the West Courtright Center was when I was here to be with a piano tuner who had come up from Steinway to tune the piano for the next night's concert here. It was just a magical evening. You know, we had to stop on the way here to let cows go across the road, and the sun was setting, and
my first impression of this valley had happened in the year before when I looked down into it, and my breath was taken away. I just thought, of all the places in the world, this may be the most beautiful I've seen.
My mother called it Peaceful Valley. It just, it was like a dream for her. Really nice. Yeah.
And then when you walk into the building, I think you can immediately feel the energy. You can feel the energy of the people who have worshiped and worked here. That might be the same thing.
Anywhere you come, you see this building, and it really touched my heart, and my kids love it too. They have always been closer to this building than any church that we have belonged to in the area.
The center has this wonderful closeness, this intimacy, this feeling of community, and yet it brings to this community the entire world. The culture of the larger world is brought into this small universe, and it's magical.
Delaware County and town of Meredith used to be one of the foremost dairy sections in New York State, in the country for that matter. And of course there's been a change. The land is still there and the land is still beautiful, but the character is changing because the dairy business is just not as profitable as it used to be.
Many of the old timers wouldn't visualize how much traffic we see going through here today. And when you talk to people, they say, well, you live out in the boondocks, and I says, oh no, we don't. Not no more.
No, the city is on us. It did bother me that it was empty and not being used for anything.
And so I went to a meeting, an organizational meeting, and there were a lot of people there, and a few of my friends and contemporaries who were also transplants to this area.
We had meetings on what the building could be, the potential of the building, and some people just shaking their heads in horror over some of the suggestions which have materialized today and have not destroyed the ambiance of the whole building.
After the meeting, I came out here and found this building with a friend just to see what we were talking about.
The building had been leaking, and so the plaster had come off to the first floor, let alone the second floor.
And I thought, what a project. This is going to be a lot of work.
Putting in the new foundation and straightening the steeple became the first projects, but it wasn't very long that we were able to start having some activities.
The first event that I remember was a two-day festival of the arts.
It seemed like the young people who had moved into the area had all these wonderful ideas and were able to carry them out in fundraising activities with getting performers, and the people who had lived here for a good many years and had been part of the West Courtright Center, they took upon themselves to always have this wonderful food. And without the two groups, I don't think that we could have just moved forward, because it really took the meshing of the two groups to pull anything off, and it was just a fun time.
Well, we're dairy farmers next to the West Courtright Center.
Pasture is long start. I'm a character actress and I teach theater. I teach theater workshops to kids every summer at the West Courtright Center. And I teach actually workshops all around the world.
I have been one of those kids who was here just kind of hang out at the performance, and then of course the refreshments at the end, so you got to be back there first and get all the good cookies before everybody else does.
I'm a photographer. I do a lot of commercial work for clients all over the world. And I've had a show that was funded by the West Courtright Center of portraits that I have taken of the surrounding community, and that's been most gratifying.
Well, I tell you, we moved here onto the Catskill Turnpike in 1951. We had a dairy farm for up until about 7 years ago. We have been involved in the West Courtright Center since its inception.
My husband and I operate an organic dairy farm, and I also teach part-time in the city. I write librettos for operas and teach acting and playwriting.
I first went to the West Courtright Center when I was really little, and there was a big thunderstorm, and my parents were performing, and my sister and I were there, and we were terrified of the thunder, and we were screaming and crying, and they eventually had to take us out of there.
One of the first events that I saw here was a Zydeco band performance by Queen Ida, and it was outside on a warm summer night, unusual for here, and it was just one of those performances that clicked here.
Mardi Gras, Mardi Gras, I sure love that Mardi Gras.
The Queen Ida concert, I was asked to help with the food, and oh my, it was just really. Along at the end, they asked volunteers to come out and dance, and we were out there online just doing a shuffle, and we were just having a wonderful time.
Everything's gonna be all right. Mardi Gras.
Just remembering Son de la Loma, this terrific Cuban group, that was a very exciting event. We had kids were there dancing, we had old people dancing, I mean, every age was there.
Hassan Hakmoun, who's very good looking, who played here, I remember very well and I liked a lot. And I remember Monster Mike Welch, and he was great, and he was so young.
I remember one performance that Meredith Monk gave that at the end of which she and her performers left the church, and the audience streamed out behind her, and she and her performers moved up the road, this beautiful dirt road on this starlit night. And as they left and their voices sort of got thinner and thinner, and the audience moved out behind them, and it was just really one of those magical, special moments that happen between audience and performers that I think at the West Courtright Center happens a lot.
Half of the kids come from more sophisticated backgrounds than the other half of the kids, and they have so many different things that they know and ways that they can enrich each other's lives. They certainly do bond and form a community of their own here.
And then, of course, there's the famous pet parade, which we have every year.
When you get to the entrance, just parade right on down through the middle there, and we'll call you one by one to award the prizes. Okay, sheep, we've got a caterpillar, we've got a snail, we've got twin raccoons and a pullet. It's wonderful, and let's not forget the maggots and the Ludwigs and the whatever they are.
No, stop that, stop that.
Stab! Thrust!
Parry, thrust.
Hit him!
No.
This is intermission. Put that down. Put it down. Get ready. I think that the teenage years are really the absolutely best time to perform Shakespeare, because Shakespeare in his comedies has a kind of innocence and joie de vivre that older people have lost.
I feel so good, like I knew I would. Ooh, I feel so good.
Even louder, come on.
Ooh, I feel so good, like I knew I would. Ooh, I feel so good.
I don't want to sound too Victorian, too full of high seriousness, but I think it's good for them to memorize those beautiful words and to make it theirs. I think that there have been a lot of kids whose lives have been changed by the experience. That's one of the magical things about theater. Acting is walking in another person's shoes, and if you are a shy adolescent and you find yourself reeling off one mellifluous phrase after another, it gives you a certain self-confidence.
But mine, I must forsooth be forced to give my hand opposed against my heart, unto a mad brain rudes be full of spleen, who wooed in haste and now means to wed at leisure. I told you he was.
We are such stuff as dreams are made on, and our little life is rounded with a sleep.
The West Courtright Center has had sometimes the very sad opportunity to have memorial services for people who have been closely involved with the West Courtright Center.
One of my memories was a nearly spontaneous memorial service that the kids held for one of their number who was killed in a car crash 2 summers ago. And it just became obvious that Mike had been so much a part of the other kids' lives and of the life of the center, but also what a deep role the center had played in his life and in all of our lives.
I love this because I think it's how Michael lived every day. It's written by an Indian elder. It doesn't interest me what you do for a living. I want to know what you ache for, and if you dare to dream of meeting your heart's longing. It doesn't interest me what planets are squaring your moon. I want to know if you have touched the center of your own sorrow, if you have been opened by life's betrayals, or if you have become shriveled and closed from fear of further pain. It doesn't interest me where you live or how much money you make. I want to know if you can get up after the night of grief and despair, weary and bruised to the bone, and do what needs to be done for the children. It doesn't interest me who you are, how you came to be here. I want to know if you will stand in the center of the fire with me and not shrink back. It doesn't interest me where or what or with whom you have studied. I want to know what sustains you from the inside when all else falls away. I want to know if you can be alone with yourself and if you truly like the company you keep in the empty moments.
Unborn, from that everything arises. Unborn, from that everything arises.
I've been to some weddings here that have been very moving and very beautiful. Funerals, ecumenical services, road races where we're careening around the countryside, gallery exhibits. That includes photos, paintings, sculpture exhibits, all top quality by local artists.
And to sit outside with my friends and look at the stars while I hear people perform. taking walks down here and sitting on the picnic table when it's all dark and there's nobody here.
It's great being a farmer. It's great living outdoors, but I can't imagine living here without having access to live classical music or live jazz. The center just enriches our lives in so many, many ways.
There is that sense of this as a center of a community, really a center. People long for that.
The picnics produce a lot of funny things. I actually saw somebody down there eating a hot dog from the side. It was Martha that was doing it. Right. How do you normally? You usually eat a hot dog.
Wouldn't find that going on in the metropolitan
No.
in New York.
For me, I'm really happy. I'm happy that it's been in my lifetime. I'm happy to have lived from the time it began until now. It pleases me.